All right, hello all, and welcome to uh 2100 Child Growth and Development Skills, Week 9. And this week we're going to be talking about infant toddler social emotional development. But there is so much to cover in this chapter or this section. I need to change the date, but as you can tell, I start working before I post. Um, Actually, this is going to bother me. I'm gonna just do this now because it's not Tuesday, nor is it October 30th. That's going to bother me. All right, back to it. So it's week 9, and we're talking about infant toddler social emotional development. Here's our agenda. It was going to be longer, but as I was putting these slides together, I realized, holy moly, there's so much information. And I read something recently that I knew, but I realized I needed to stick to no matter how much material I might want to cover. Um, so we're going to review and recap infant toddler language development and really talk about some very simple activities that you as if you are in working with infants and toddlers in whatever capacity, whatever role you're in, or as a parent, as some sort of caregiver, because there's so many ways that we can very easily encourage and make language and communication fun. And so I'm going to show you two videos very briefly. I don't want to go through all of them that provide some helpful tips and tricks. And then we're going to go back to attachment. I introduced it a few weeks ago because it has such an impact on development. We're going to get more in depth. So I have a different video, and then I talk about the different types of attachment. And then we're going to start attachments, part of social emotional development. We're going to talk more about caregiver behaviors and attachment interventions. So treatment or strategies we use to support children who do not have secure attachment so that they do not feel the effects later in life. And then we're going to talk about attachment and the social brain, because there's one little piece there that becomes very important. One, when we're talking about um, communication and social emotional development, or really social communication and children with disabilities, which I'm going to talk more in depth about next week, as well as cultural or next session. So what I wanted to show you, these are things that we're already tracking: preschool observation, infant toddler observation, and then analysis of play. So this is the reminder. I apologize for the font. I wanted to squeeze it all into one slide of your weekly expectations, as always, although quiz 9 posted. Instructions posted. Sorry, wanted to make sure you were aware of that. So quiz 9 was posted yesterday, and instructions for the discussion board were also posted yesterday, a little later than I had anticipated. It's kind of a simple post where you have two options of how to respond, but it's a quote from the book that's about attachment, but really caregiver responsiveness. And then what I wanted to excuse me, sorry, note is that I can tell there has been content and there will be content that I want to go over because it's so important. But I also don't want to spend too much time trying to create these lectures that you all have to watch. I don't mind creating the lectures. I do mind creating long lectures. So I'm going to start creating a Wednesday lecture and a Friday lecture. And what I want to do is there will just be one exit ticket, and it's up to you which lecture you're going to complete the exit ticket on. I still want you to watch both. It's difficult for me to require it since it's additional time that was not really included, but I want you to have this information, and there will be good reason because it will help you if you retake quizzes or as you're completing test 2, which I'm going to have available in mid-November. to make sure you watch this content. So today will be part 1 of infant, toddler, social, emotional development, and then Friday I'm going to create a second PowerPoint. I'm gonna start I have to, I've had a hard time because I'm trying to teach my first semester here, and there's a lot more that I've wanted to kind of adapt and change to these courses than I expected, and so I'm working towards making these courses and these lectures the way I would like them to be, but that takes a lot of time. So I apologize for how I've had to make so many changes, and I hope that the way I've done it has not hurt or hindered your ability to learn, has helped you. But just know I'm aware that it's been a little clunky and I am trying my best. So let's do a review and recap. We're going to start with 2 videos that I really like about infant toddler language activities. And these are both very simple. There are 8, I think, yeah, 8 activities in each, and they're so simple. Things that you can easily do or create at home or create without extra cost in a child care center. So let's watch the first one.
Are you looking for some fun toddler activities to help support language development? So for my first activity, we are going to read a book, but in a little bit of a different way. I've cut out some felt pieces, all in different sizes, and I'm going to lay them over different animals or different foods in the book, and have Ben talk about what's under them. He can also then move them around and hide.
So again, the accent can be difficult. I like it, but again, there's some words that are pronounced weird. So what you'll see is she is using a book and putting flaps on the book. Here.
What is it? Cat. A cat? Yeah. Oh, little baby cow. Oh, what's under this one then? Put it up and we'll see. Oh,
Mouse.
oh, there's a wee mouse.
Yeah.
You're right, a wee tiny mouse.
Yeah. Shell.
Shells. How many shells?
This is one you can use to target specific vocabulary if there are things that you want or that you think that a 2-year-old is learning, things that are familiar to them, so things that interest them, right? We're not going to bring things that we think are important to the toddler. That's going to be part maybe of our culture if we want to make sure that our children can appreciate the culture that they're being raised in, but also things that are just familiar, things that your child is drawn to. So it could be maybe the beach is something that a child is drawn to, or maybe the farm. Those are animals in general, typically things that can drive interest. This is one of my favorite games to play, and I've done it before.
Animals, words that he knows really well, and so my next activity is a classic. It's a very easy version of What's Missing. I've got 3 of Ben's farm animals, words that he knows really well, and a silk scarf. We have a pig, a cow, and a sheep. I'm going to hide them,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
You close your eyes. Close your eyes. Okay, which animal's gone?
Pig.
The pig's there.
Cow.
The cow's there.
Sheep.
The sheep! Is the sheep missing?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right, it was the sheep.
So this one works on different levels, right? This is also something that works with cognitive development, working memory, the ability to hold information, different pieces of information in our heads. And then also receptive language. Can you understand what the activity is asking? And of course, expressive language, being able to label objects appropriate, even objects that aren't there. This one I really like. All right.
For the next activity, all you're going to need is a sticker or a piece of masking tape, literally anything that will stick. And for this activity, I'm going to focus on body parts, but again, you could focus on any language topic. Can you put the sticker on my chin? My chin?
Yeah.
Can you put the sticker on my chin?
Yeah.
Oh! Can you put the sticker on my head?
Yeah.
Oh! Can you put the sticker on your nose?
So that one is great for receptive language. And if you are, think about trying to assess, trying to figure out what does this child know, but doing so without like a formal assessment, right? Do a game like this where you ask these questions and they might be words that, you know, a typical child is supposed to know, and you'll figure out pretty quickly without having to force the child to do activities that are not really natural, but in a fun way learn what they do and do not know and do not understand. This one's pretty simple.
Ever since Easter and Ben's first experience with an Easter egg hunt, he has really loved finding things. One of the activities which we really love to do just now is play hide and seek with an object. So we hide one of his toys somewhere around the house and then we give him directions to help him find it. This has been great for learning.
Again,
Five,
respective language.
6,
9,
9.
9.
Oh, is Daddy ready?
Ja.
Ist das Schwein im Haus?
Oh,
Schau nach.
Nein.
Nein. Okay. Wo ist es auf deinem Stuhl?
Ja.
Oh.
Eine.
Ein Schwein haben wir schon gefunden. Okay.
pretty cool, right? There's another one. This also is something that I do that I find
I
very
think nearly everyone knows that reading and singing with your toddler are a great way to build their vocabulary. One way that we turn it into a little bit more of an activity is to use a pause and let Ben fill in the word. We read and sing a lot, so Ben has become really good at this, but it's a great way for him to learn new words which he might not be exposed to otherwise and use them in a context. Horsey, don't you
Dub.
just let your feet go clippity,
Cup.
see such.
So, and then maybe that's one they know. You could do wheels on the bus, and it could be a choice too. If you want to do wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. Wheels on the bus go round and round all through the town. And then you might let the kids decide, or if you have children with disabilities, something I might do, and we did when I was working in early intervention, is present pictures of typical choices for the wheels on the bus. So wheels is a given, but then we have the people, the baby, or not the people, the babies, the mommies, the horn. Those can all be options that your child or that a child could choose. And in addition to choice making, they're also understanding how music can carry meaning, how language carries meaning. Lots of different, I've always loved using song pauses because children love to be part of it. This one's not that exciting. Yeah, we're gonna go to the next one because I think the rest of
Hi
those ones are
everyone,
not
I'm
as
Cara.
good. So here's one. She says posting, and I've never heard that term before because I think it's culturally different. It's a different dialect of English. So I believe posting is putting things in something, which a lot of toddlers like to do. So we'll see this one quickly.
All toddlers love to post things, or at least that's the case for my toddler, so this activity is a huge hit. For this activity, we are doing family member vocabulary, but you can use it for any language topic you want. So this is just a yogurt tub. We've actually been using it for posting activities for a really long time. It's just got a little slit cut on the top, and we've been using it for posting things like playing cards. And then I just made some little laminated flashcards with photos of members of our family and even the pets. Pappy next. I can find Pappy.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Pappy.
Lift.
You've lifted him, yeah? Are you?
So this idea, and I understand it seems like a simple or boring activity, but a lot of our younger children just like putting things in and having a reason to do so. So she sees this interest in her child and is like, well, let's make this a language and learning activity. And not only are we learning different terms for family members, we're also remembering and recognizing the important people that are in our life. This is another great way to kind of add on to that type of activity.
And then you can take this exact same concept and add layers of language. So to do this, you'll need several boxes, several baskets, or what I've done and actually designed 4 different sides of the same box. So I know that this version is a little bit extra, but I had some extra time yesterday, and this is the kind of thing I absolutely.
So she obviously created this, but imagine you can just make pictures, slap them on a box, right? Make these, it doesn't have to be monsters with mouths, but it could be something similar.
Love to make. So I just took a box and I have drawn and painted 4 different monsters on the 4 sides. I made them all different colours and gave them all different features, so different numbers of eyes and arms and things like that. And I just can think of so many opportunities for learning. And next to it, I've just put a plate with a variety of Ben's play food, and we're going to feed the monsters. So with this, we're adding the different layers of language. There's obviously the comprehension and the selection of the big. Let's see. Oh, it's too big. Let's try.
Kannst du dem blauen Monster eine Banane bringen? Den blauen.
So what is also nice about this activity is it could turn into a sorting activity. In addition to receptive language, you could extend it, and you could then collect everything and then dump it out and say, how many did we post or how many did we put in the box? Let's see. Which one is this? That one's not. This is the other one that I like.
A game of Snap where toddlers are matching cards to something that they see in real life is also super engaging and gets toddlers talking. So I got Thomas to make a range of different faces and then just printed and laminated into little cards. I will link these ones below for you, but obviously it's far more effective if you use someone who's familiar to the child. I think that talking about feelings is a really great vocabulary topic as it helps toddlers to begin to be able to express how they're feeling. Daddy, what are you feeling? He's tired. Can you find Daddy's tired face? Where's Daddy's tired face? There.
So here, what's interesting, and this is such a logical first step, he's matching the face of the person that's right in front of him to what that gentleman is actually doing, his dad. The next step would be, can we then, after he's kind of mastered matching dad's expressions, can we then try to match these to other people and see how well that vocabulary can be generalized across situations? And there's one more. This is one of my favorites I've seen her do that I had never thought about.
For the Play-Doh egg activity, just take some small figurines and completely wrap them in Play-Doh like an egg. Oh, which egg do you want? The big egg? What is it? A duck! Did a duck hatch out of your egg?
House.
So
Is it coming out of the egg?
this one, although simple, again, works on many different levels. It works on fine motor play. So if you are trying to strengthen your child's your hand muscles, you might try something like this. And then there's this cool surprise of like, there's something in there. What could it be? And you talk about it. You talk about how it feels. Then the last one that I think everyone should try if you haven't.
And my final activity is a search and find jar. So Ben just helped me fill this with things that we found around the garden, and then I've part filled it with sand. The idea is that we're going to turn it, talk about what we see. With older toddlers, you can also encourage them to find certain things.
So I've
Stone?
So for this toddler, you might use larger items that are salient that they know, but you might also want to see if they can visually perceive smaller items in that large space as well. But this also works on a sensory need. You might have some children who are very interested in unique visual stimuli, which could make this an even more interesting activity. But these types of activities that are easy, that you can use items from around your house or around, if you're in a childcare center in a school, they're things that you can easily find. and they are work on many levels, but especially language development. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of close out language development, and I'll talk again about literacy development next week because I want to attach that to social and emotional development. But I just wanted to give you some ideas. Okay, we know this stuff about language. How do we encourage it? How can we, I had given you this, I had said parents and people who are with young children in general should just talk. But what else can we do if we don't know what to say? Maybe we need to structure an activity to help. All right, so that's that. And let's move on to attachment. Clearly that child was attached to his parents. Let's get a nice refresh. The book says attachment is a bidirectional process in which infants and parents, but other caregivers as well, form emotional bonds with one another. Important to note, they can be formed with mothers, fathers, or other primary caregivers. If you work in a child care center that supports infants who are as young as 6 weeks, then you know that there's typically most centers employ a primary caregiver model where there is usually one adult, even if there are multiple, and there should be multiple in an infant room. One adult is primarily supporting certain children because we want to, if the child is not going to have that time to attach to their parent, we want to make sure there's a healthy attachment to another adult. And why this is so important, because these behaviors, specifically nurturing behaviors, activate that part of the brain that is responsible for happy, positive emotions. So the book talks about this thing called the strange situation procedure. And that's the procedure that was developed to really assess the level of attachment of a child. And so this is a super old video, but it is the exact experiment that was done. And so you can see what these researchers and these families might have been looking for if they were concerned about attachment or if they just wanted to learn more about it. Let's check it out.
This experiment, which I watched through a two-way mirror, is designed to gauge how secure is the crucial relationship between mother and child.
Okay, this bunny is going to go here, and that bunny will be on top.
The value of the test has been established in studies that would watch a child, 1-year-old, and then follow it up and interview them about their relationships to their parents when they were 21 years old. So we're quite confident in the long-term significance of this relationship.
Peter, that's Peter.
After several minutes' play, the mother is signaled to leave the room.
Sweetie, I'll be back in 1 minute, okay? I'll get you back in 1 minute.
Is it upsetting for you? Shame, I feel. But she'll survive.
Interesting.
The key moment in
Looking
the
right at the
experiment
camera.
is the child's reaction to her mother's return.
Hi. It's okay.
The important clue is whether the baby's able to become calmed down by the contact with the mother, get back to play. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes. But you see, when the mother was out, she was only interested in the mother, no interest in the toys. Now she has a contact with the mother, she's beginning to show a little interest in the environment, and shortly she'll be right back with the toys where we started.
So you would call this a secure one?
Yes, yes.
She's certainly much happier.
Goes to the door following her. Now, we sent the mother right back in. The point here is not to distress the baby. We're just trying to challenge it. The baby puts her hands to her face in a sad expression, puts her face down. When she picks her up, she keeps her head down, her arms out, and then she sits in the chair holding the baby. The baby's still sullen. He's low-keyed.
So you would call this insecure
Yes,
attachment?
insecure. He's avoidant. He's not engaging her, and the reunion's not effective. And it's important to remember here that the thing that upset him was her absence. Her return should be the solution to his problem. Now this is another pattern that we see in babies who are not good at using their mother as a secure base at home. This baby is also insecure. But you'll see, we got a look at his play before the separation. The mother's left. And when she returns, she picks him up. He can't calm down. He's still upset. She offers a toy to amuse him or to comfort him or to distract him, and he slaps it away. She offers another. He slaps it away. He's angry. We call these babies resistant or ambivalent because they both want her back and yet can't use the contact. We think that the difficulty is that in the past, when he sought comfort, she's been inconsistent as to whether she's available and responsive or not.
So that is and they didn't show disorganized, but we're going to get into that. So that's the procedure that was used to assess attachment. And so here's the graph that's in the book, but I thought it would be nicer if I put some pictures up. So here's what we know is that the secure attachment is just like the first example from the video, where if the parent leaves, the child is upset, but when the parent returns, the child is able to be comforted, although it needs that hug, but is able to then explore again and play with toys with the mom nearby. Then we have the second instance that was presented, and that is insecure avoidant. And that is when the child may or may not cry if the parent leaves, but what really is what marks this is that the child isn't really comforted when the parent returns and doesn't even kind of take notice in the parent. So they avoid the parent. And then this one where we saw this was the third is insecure ambivalent, or they also called resistant, which I've heard as well. I categorize myself as this, and that's someone who shows great upset when the parent leaves, but even when the parent returns, isn't calmed, continues to be upset. And, that one was a clear example of a baby that wasn't calmed and really was just clinging and upset. And then this last type is disorganized, which is when there are many different behaviors displayed, when the child is confused when the mom returns and they don't really know what to do with themselves. They become clingy, or they become upset, or they ignore the mother. It's not one particular, we can't identify secure attachment, but it's unclear whether the child is avoidant or ambivalent. And in those cases, that is disorganized attachment. So, okay, we know what these are, but how do we get there? What matters in terms of attachment? Well, what we have learned is that behaviors such as responsiveness and warmth are what lead to secure attachment. So responsiveness, which you'll hear a lot, is how a parent interprets the infant's signals and how they respond. So if an infant cries, does the parent immediately pick them up and comfort them? If the infant reaches out, do they respond and interact with them? If the infant makes eye contact, does the parent return? Similar with if the infant smiles, although that's more warmth. So these are all part of responsiveness. These are the signals the infant may give to the mom, and to the parent or caregiver. And the way the caregiver responds is part of what factors into that attachment. But then there's also warmth, and that's when parents dedicate time for direct contact with their babies. And often there's actual physical contact involved. So it's holding the baby. It can be playing and singing. So those videos involved a lot of holding, playing, and singing, or bouncing the baby. So providing physical touch, loving physical touch, is that warmth. These two behaviors are part of what, and very early on in development, are what lead to the type of attachment that child has. But what do we do if, if we have disorganized or insecure, ambivalent, or avoidant attachment? In our previous video, we saw that that avoidant, ambivalent, and disorganized attachment can lead to issues for adults later in life. It persists. So then we lack this warmth and responsiveness. What do? There are several attachment interventions. And some of this does link right into early intervention, because this is something that would be done, home visiting. One of the examples is if there is a parent who is depressed, a single parent is depressed at home, then a home visitor, because the child, typically there's a reason. So let me say this. If a home visitor is coming, it's for a few different reasons, but usually it's because that person is already involved with the child or the adult and needs to support this relationship because it's been outlined as a goal. If it's early intervention and we're noticing that there is a social emotional delay, then it's typical that an early interventionist will address these attachment behaviors of responsiveness and warmth during the home visit. And oftentimes the home visit, what's nice is then the interventionist, the home visitor, can model those skills in the home setting. Another instance is with early Head Start. Head Start is a program that was created for individuals in need. It was created for low-income children and families, and it is a family-centered program, and they do conduct home visits. These are the types of things they would do. They're working with the parents to make sure they have the resources to be the best parent so that their child can develop as they should. So home visiting is one of those interventions. Another is parent support groups. So I actually, when I worked for the Groden Center back 10 years ago, they held parent support groups for children who were enrolled in their early intervention program. Now, not all children had autism, though that was a vast majority. Many were presenting with social emotional delays, typically in the form of behavioral challenges. So some of what can help with these groups is that, one, we have validation. It can be hard if you feel like you're the reason your child is not attached because of your behavior. Sometimes that's not always the case, and we'll get into that with attachment and disabilities. But having the support can really increase confidence. And also you'll meet parents who might be dealing with the same struggles, and they might have some ways to solve the problems that you never thought of. And as well, there's always one professional, though in our groups, I was a professional, but the ideal setting is if you have a professional who's also a parent advocate. So typically in our center, we would have a ripened parent advocate facilitate the support groups if it was her days to be there. Because she was the person who not only had practice and experience working directly with families, but was a person who went through early intervention. So she knew what it was like to be in their position. Parent education. This is something else that Ripen can provide. And this is for both parents and professionals. But if you're a parent and you feel like you don't have all the skills you need, there are plenty of parent education and training workshops available, typically through a parent advocacy center like Ripen. And the idea is teaching parents these things they might not know. They might not know that responsiveness and warmth actually are very important in developing secure attachment, and that secure attachment is very important in your child's overall social emotional development and later mental health. these are things that we all learn if we're in the field, but if you're not, say you were an engineer, say you were and have an MBA or a business leader, you might not know these things because it's not your area. Why would you? You might assume things that you learned that were successful for your area that are not. And so it can be really important if we feel like a parent is responsive and willing to set them up with these parent training groups. And then something that's been an increased focus is the inclusion of fathers specifically, because so often, and I say this too as a partner to, as a step parent to a father that I think is highly involved, but oftentimes people don't initially kind of contact him from the school with questions because he is the dad. And so there are now programs around the country. I know of one when I was working in Providence, there was a program specifically for, I don't know if it was specifically divorced families or co-parenting families of children with disabilities. And this parent had joined this, and he actually, it led him to initiate a meeting just to talk about what he needed so that he could support his son. And what was also helpful is this was an English language learner. This was a native Spanish speaker. And this was a place where this person, his support worker was not technically bilingual, but he had made an effort to learn Spanish so that he could communicate with this parent, which was also, to me, very moving because it meant he was dedicated to what he was doing and recognized, I need to know this if I'm going to work in this community. But also I think what was nice is like it was a father and it was another father supporting a father. And so oftentimes what's helpful in these father support groups is that they're not run by people who aren't them. They're run by people who look like them. So these are 4 common interventions that you might see if we have kids if there are children that we know are not securely attached. And so just the last piece that I want to go through is attachment and the social brain. What does that? So the social brain, and this was a question on a quiz, so pay attention. If you got it wrong, now you know it. Is a complex system of neurological regions that promote social relationships. So basically, here's your brain. Your brain gets activated, and one of the ways that infant and toddler brains get activated is from just looking at their caregivers' faces. And what then happens is we start to develop, actually, let me make sure I have this right before I say the wrong thing. So yeah, infant brains are highly activated when they look at their parents, and they typically gaze right into their parents' eyes after birth, and this starts to foster these nurturing emotions. What it also fosters is a very critical skill in social emotional development, and that is joint attention. It is a skill that is demonstrated as early as 4 months. Lack of this skill also can be a signal of autism and other social emotional, other disorders that we know have social emotional components that are, I don't want to say deficits, but differences. But joint attention, if you don't know, is the ability to share attention. In the book, I think it says to an object, but really it's any other thing. Excuse me. Object, event, or living thing with another person. So here, and I believe I took this picture from something about autism. So here you have a mom and a son, or a child, let me not say that, mom and a child looking at a car together and smiling. That is an example of joint attention. What we are missing that should happen too is they look at the car, they look back at each other, and then they look at the car, meaning they are sharing the enjoyment of the activity. This is very important because we learn joint attention is a critical skill in development. It's a critical skill in our development of social skills. And it's something that, because it is demonstrated as early as 4 months of age, it's also something that we can observe as missing, um, or a need. And if that's the case, then we also know maybe we should consider assessment for, or, one, a referral to early intervention, get these home visitors in, or a referral for a neurodevelopmental evaluation, which is what you would do if you are concerned of something like autism. But I wanted to talk about that because I think all of these pieces build to our next part, which is really infant, toddler, social emotional development, temperament, autonomy, and understanding attachment with children with disabilities, because all of those pieces come into play when we're talking about children with disabilities. But that's all I want to talk about for now. This is where I would say I'm going to change this for you. I thought I had done this, but I didn't. So let's do it in real time. For now, we'll say that's all, folks. Complete an exit ticket by, not Friday, my apologies, by Monday. But here, before we do that, I should do wrap up. So let's do a quick wrap up of what did we talk about today. So we learned about some activities facilitating or that build language development in infants and toddlers. We reviewed attachment, watched the strange situation procedure, and became aware of how different attachment types are identified, right? We talked about caregiver behaviors and attachment, and the interventions to support caregivers building or rebuilding attachment. And then we talked about the social brain and the critical importance of developing joint attention, which I will get into more next session. So basically, again, social emotional development is a big topic. I know it's already been about a half hour that I've been talking, and I'm trying to keep my lectures shorter now, because even I get tired in those longer lectures. So this will be part 1. I'm going to give you part 2 on Friday. Be prepared for that, or Saturday at the latest, knowing me. I know I'm not always great at that. But just be aware there's a lot to this chapter. As someone who's worked in early childhood, I'm just going to tell you, if I'm going to focus a long time on any topic, it's going to be social emotional development, because it's so important and because so many other parts of development are linked to it. I mean, we talked about language development. There's social communication, which I haven't really even talked about yet, but that's kind of an area people don't separate, but is critical. All right, that's all I have for now. Thank you, and I'll have another one for you Friday.